I did not have sexual relations with
And I
that woman.
realized that this is something
Miss
he is
Lewinsky.
We're not going to
inherent.
be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to this show.
Hey, Steve.
We do air it several times a week now. John Stanberry, Franklin Chansey in the studio as usual. Another exciting week in the world of politics, but one of the things I guess we ought to start with is the old knockout punch. Can you believe that they've got this new fad going on now where you actually come up beside or behind someone and swing and try to knock them out? And some of these people are 78, 72 years old. I mean, my God.
Well, and women.
And women. What in the world is going on in our country?
That's one of the more bizarre ones that I've seen.
Well, I will say this. You have to be careful on how our media functions these days because there's multiple things happening in the story. Now we've got people complaining that because apparently on the tapes at least it appears to be mostly black males attacking white people, that we're being unfair to make that categorization, even though that's what the tape show. But the other thing I was going to tell you is there's a report about how this new phenomenon is terrible and scary. Guess when the report first aired? 1992. There's a report, I think, from CNN or one of the major news that did a story on this. So there's some idea that this has been around for a long time, but because we now have more and more of these surveillance cameras everywhere, we're actually picking it up on tape.
I just can't imagine. I mean, you really got to be a sick person to think this way, to try to hurt someone that's just absolutely, I mean, an older person especially. To walk up to an older person like that that's just helpless and to do something like this. I swear, I'm waiting for somebody. You know, John, I'm waiting for somebody to pull out a pistol and blow one of these guys.
It has happened. I didn't pull that story up,
Yeah.
but a concealed carry permit holder has now shot one of them.
Good.
But now, Steve, you know, when you work for 30 to 40 years building a community that says a growing human being inside a body is a lump of tissue that can be discarded at the whim of the irresponsible party member, what do you expect a generation to do? They don't value human life.
I don't know.
That's a great leap, John.
It's not a great leap, Franklin. You can trace all of these problems in our culture back to the Supreme Court removing God out of the schools in the 70s. The rise in illegitimate births, the rise in abortion, the rise in crime, all of it goes back to about 1972.
Before Roe versus Wade, when a segment of our population was being lynched all through the South for the color of their skin, that was the good old days when morals and values were
he didn't deal with what I said at all.
I did say.
Franklin, I will show you the charts. It's running along, and there's some blips up and down, and there's some general tendencies. And then in about 1972, all of these things skyrocket off the charts.
John, you've been telling us for the last year and a half or 2 years about how much lower crime rates are the last 5 years in America.
I agree.
Well, you can't have it both ways.
Yes, I can, because guess what they chart with, Franklin? They chart with more and more states allowing concealed carry laws. As the court, or as the states, Republicans took control, we allowed people to be able to defend themselves, and you can directly correlate the increased
that is about the most ludicrous statement you've ever made.
I am so sorry that facts don't line up with your emotional liberal policies.
You can't back that statement
I
up
absolutely
one bit.
can. I'll bring it in next week.
Then why would, for example, crime be down significantly in California, in New York City, where you don't allow you to carry these weapons
Well,
in
one in
concealed way?
California because they're all leaving California and going to Texas.
How would you explain that in all these urban areas where they're isn't concealed
Frankly,
carry weapons.
I hate to break this to you, but Chicago, most violent city in America, and now the argument from the liberals is always, oh, it's the guns come in from outside. Well, guess what? All the surrounding neighborhoods around Chicago, they all have concealed carry allowance, much, not a lot in Illinois, but much more than Chicago, and their crime rates are significantly lower than inside the city.
All right, okay. I didn't mean to stir y'all up so early this morning. Let's go back in time a little bit. The Kennedys, 50 years ago, had a big week this week of the Kennedys, the execution of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and then all the stigmas came back up, from the crime scene. They didn't think that, what's his name that shot Kennedy?
Oswald.
It never was proven without a doubt that he did this and some of these type of things. What's your opinion of this? You think that everything was pretty much proven, that all these things that they're trying to bring up now that have not been answered are just myths, or do you think that the investigation was completed?
I think that there's just enough questions that can't be answered that makes people concerned about that question. But I think the overwhelming amount of evidence suggests that, amazingly enough, one crazy, deranged person can do a lot of damage.
Which, we ought to deal with one crazy, deranged person like that instead of taking guns away from all the rest of us that don't do things like that. But I will say this, there's multiple problems compounding this. We know, for example, that Kennedy, let's just say, had his liberties with different women. We know that there were at least mob connections trying to get a arm into the White House, and there was concern that they were holding some of these things. That's one of the reasons you don't want a public official to have affairs.
Because I think they're in the White House now, but go ahead.
Well, the New York mob was more legitimate than the Chicago mob. And then you have things like, we know relatively assuredly that LBJ probably had a man killed in Texas in a congressional campaign. We don't talk about a lot of these things. We know, for example, that there's White House tape. I've listened to it where 3 days after the assassination, LBJ was effectively hitting on the first lady, of Kennedy, or the former first lady at that point. It's a disgusting phone conversation to listen to. So we know he was a scoundrel. All of these things feed this idea that, hey, maybe there was a conspiracy. I'm like Franklin. I don't think anybody knows for sure, but it's just, we like a conspiracy theory.
All right, Hobby Lobby. What's the deal with the lawsuit going on there now?
They're going to get their day before the Supreme Court. They've already been upheld.
It's really a fact. Well, there've been about 20 of these lawsuits filed, and they've gotten all kinds of different results in the district and appellate courts coming, and so the Supreme Court has agreed to take 2 of those, which would resolve all the rest of them.
So we'll make it clear to the audience that we're talking about Hobby Lobby suit. That this is a lawsuit where a company feels it morally runs a Christian type company, does not want to allow birth control to be part of their health insurance plan that they provide to their employees. Right.
That's right.
Okay.
Now I will say that the family that owns Hobby Lobby also owns Mardell Christian Bookstore chain. Mm-hmm. So they are clearly a convicted family.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the outcome of this is going to be?
Well, my prediction will be that the lawsuit will fail, and I'll give you an example of why. And I'm certainly not challenging these folks' moral views or anything like that. But this example has come up before. There are some businesses that are owned by Christian Scientists who don't believe in using medical care for illnesses, that you have to address them all by prayer. Would we allow them to say that they don't have to do it if they choose to provide some coverage, that they can say, well, we don't want you to provide, some don't believe that you should have any medicines introduced into the body or injections, things like that. Will we say that they can't do it because it's a religious view? I mean, that just takes you down a path that's, I think, unsustainable.
I
Well, the
think
funny thing about
they're
that-
taking religion out of context. I think
The funny
really.
thing about your example, though, Franklin, is you're holding up an example where their denial would cause human harm. Hobby Lobby is making that same claim that forcing them to provide this causes human harm, that they're causing them to pay for the killing of an unborn child.
Well, I don't see how birth control pills become the killing
Because
of
some
an
of the
unborn
birth
child.
control pills are actually abortion-inducing medications.
That's not actually been determined.
Well, frankly,
Well,
of
it
course, it's
hasn't.
not been
I'm sorry.
determined.
It hasn't- it hasn't,
Of
John.
course, it hadn't, because the liberal mainstream media doesn't want that to be the result.
Because the medical people who are studying it have told us that they're not certain that that's the case.
So if you listen to that, that's more of Franklin's code word. The experts will tell you what's right and what's wrong.
Well,
Well, he asked me a
right,
question,
what-
which
what-
was, what do I think will happen? That's
Well,
what I think will happen.
the funny thing about the right now, Hobby Lobby is winning, and the reason the Supreme Court took this is because the Obama administration is the one appealing the appellate court that actually supported Hobby Lobby, and in the appellate decision, they actually reference the Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United, which I'm sure Franklin wasn't happy with.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually referencing the Supreme Court's previously decided law.
Time will tell,
Well,
John,
what-
and we'll all have to live with whatever the Supreme
what
Court's
is the
decision is.
what
But-
is Hobby Lobby's options here?
They can drop all their health care.
Okay,
So
that-
effectively, the liberals will get what they want if the Supreme
So
Court
if
goes the way Franklin
Obamacare
says.
is going to force something into the policies that an employer doesn't want to pay for,
An employer that operates 500 stores in 41 states and employs 13,000 full-time employees.
okay, just another chapter.
Well, again, Franklin and I argue this same basic point on a lot of these issues. It's whether you think as an individual you have a right to determine the course of your life, or some government bureaucrat is smarter than you and he should make those decisions.
Will Hobby Lobby be subject to fines if they don't furnish insurance?
Sure, they'll because of the size of the business. If you don't
I want to
provide
welcome Andy Fickelstaller into the studio. Andy's our insurance expert, Jacobson
And a good
Associates.
one.
And a good one. Well, I tell you, he's
Good
got
one.
Franklin's attention.
services. He does have my attention this week.
Some people like it, some people don't.
Anyway, what's your opinion on the Hobby Lobby case here?
Well, talking about the fines, I mean, their fine's going to be $2,000. If they decide to drop their plan, it's going to be $2,000 times the number of employees. So I don't know how many employees they have.
How many
thousands.
employees?
13,000, you said.
13,000 times 2,000 is the fine.
500 stores in 41 states.
So that's 130,000. They do get the first 30 free, so it's 12,970 times 2,000.
Now, this is a company, folks, that give their employees all kinds of benefits. They close on Sunday so the employees can spend Sunday with their family. Now, they hope they go to church, but they don't require that. They just tell them, hey, we're going to give you Sunday off so you have a day to spend with your family. This is a good, decent family running a wonderful business, and the government is attacking them for not doing what the government wants them to do.
All right, let's talk about the bros. You know what the bros are?
Probably not.
Anybody know what the bros are?
Is that kind of like the pros and cons?
No. There's something new called the bro code, baby. The bro code's how to persuade young, healthy males to sign up for Obamacare. They're calling them bros. And there was actually
Who's they?
This is the Colorado Initiative. It's a
Yeah.
couple of Obama-affiliated groups that ran incredibly sexist, disgusting ads to support Obamacare.
Yeah, they're asking. They're trying to figure out, and from the way I'm reading an article here, it was a way of talking with young people on how they thought that they could get the young people to sign up for Obamacare. And the article reads through said, "Well, I think you got to get your mama involved because mama's going to make sure that they do this."
I mean, it goes the young people. Of course, I don't have the statistics, and I don't know if they've been released. But I had the opportunity to teach 2 classes at Lee University last week for their intro to healthcare class. The professor, Dr. West, wanted me to talk to their students about healthcare reform, and of course, there were a bunch of 20-somethings in there. So I thought it was a good time to talk about young people sign up for health insurance. And basically, I posed a question to them. Obviously, does everybody heard of the individual mandate? Some of them had, some of them hadn't. But so I told them, depending on what your income level is, but let's just say you get out of college and you're making, $25,000, they're going to have to pay somewhere around $1,400 for insurance. Is basically what the law says. It's based on a percentage of your income. So I posed the question to them: hey, if you had to pay $1,400 a year for insurance or $95 a year as your penalty, how many of y'all would buy the insurance? And out of about 60 students, I don't think anybody raised their hands. They said, well, gosh, if that's my choice, I'll just spend the $95. I'm healthy. I take that back. I did have one girl that talked to me after class that she needed insurance because she had some pre-existing issues going on. But I think that's what it goes back to is if you either your parents taught you the value of having insurance or you have an existing condition that you realize that you need coverage, you're probably going to buy it. But because what they're getting for that is not a office visit copay, drug copay, zero deductible. That's a no deductible. No office copay, no drug card, $2,000 deductible. And a lot of those people are saying, hey, I don't want to pay $1,400 for that. I'd rather just go uninsured. But that's what I've been experiencing. So it's going to be difficult to get the young generation to sign up, in my opinion, unless
they're going so far as to even talk about their advertising and promotion. Healthier people have a better sex life.
Well, the worst one was the one with the young woman.
That's probably true.
The worst one was the ad with the young woman standing next to a good-looking guy, and the ad copy literally says, he's hot, and now that I don't have to worry about buying my contraceptives, all I have to worry about is getting him under the covers. That's an actual ad by a Obama administration advocacy group. One of them on the Bro guys said, hey, now that we don't have to do this, we've got more money for beer.
Did you see where the professor at the University of Tennessee got $1 million or $800,000 or $900,000 for a study of a new, more comfortable condom?
Well, certainly. Why waste your time on AIDS research or heart, disease or cancer? Let's figure out how to make a better condom so we can be more promiscuous.
And let's give them money to do it. Anyway, what's going on with Obamacare right now, Andy? You think the system about fixed?
Well, since last time I was on here, there's been several changes. The president said, what was it, a couple weeks ago? If you liked your plan, you could keep it. Which is an interesting twist because now when it rolls out, you have some states that are saying, hey, no, we're not going to allow that. I know California, Washington, Oregon have basically said
Oregon has spent over $300 million of our tax money to set up their exchange, and they have exactly zero enrollees.
But yet some of these carriers aren't going to allow people to keep their plan designs. Tennessee is going to. I've had some conversations with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Tennessee and Cigna and United Healthcare. Basically they got to go back to the state because insurance is filed at the state level and kind of ask for a do-over. But most of those carriers in the state of Tennessee are going to allow you to keep your plan if it was in force as of October 1st, 2013.
But that's just for one more year.
But it's just for one more year. So what happens, you're not allowed to make any plan changes.
From before Obamacare? Was there something that prevented insurance companies from changing their plan?
Well, no, just they had to file it with the state.
But Franklin, here's the point. For example, there's a young woman. This is another one of the Obamacare disasters. There's a young woman, Whitney Johnson. She's 26 years old, and she has MS. She had health insurance, and she had her first child on September 2nd, and she had a series of steroid treatments and surgeries and plasma exchanges that saved her life. She pays $325 a month for an individual plan. Her therapies were $40,000 a pop, but now, under the Affordable Care Act, her insurance is in threat. She just got a letter saying that her plan will be canceled because it does not comply with the health care law because it doesn't have everything she wants. Frankly, I was talking to my insurance agent.
That doesn't mean that she won't have coverage.
She
John.
doesn't have what she wants, Franklin. I don't want a government bureaucrat cramming something down my throat, for example, and I can't believe that I missed this all these months and years. I talked to my insurance agent, and she made the comment about my 16-year-old son. She said, well, I'm sure he probably will be offended at 16 that he's going to have pediatric dental coverage. And I think the irony of that hit her at the same time it hit me. I sat there for a second, and I went, Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Let me see if I got this straight. I'm a dentist. I can do my son's own dental work, but I'm going to have to pay increased premiums so he has pediatric dental coverage.
Are you going to have to pay increased
Yes,
premiums?
Franklin. Every increased benefit is an increased cost. I'm sorry liberals don't understand supply and demand.
I'm sorry, John, but that's not the experience the people I've talked to are having right now.
Did you see where, I think it was last night I saw it on the news, picked up on it, that this doctor had gotten basically she noticed that she was losing a lot of her patients. And the patients were because of some of the Obamacare stuff that's being signed up. She was no longer part of the network or something that was going to be pushing this. Then all of a sudden she got a notice that she lost her own insurance. So she's sitting there with no insurance, and then she's looking into losing her patients because she's not declared part of the network.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, hospitals. What's going on with the hospitals that are not part of the network?
Well, what's going to happen as we look at the law, and I really probably wasn't aware of this 3 years ago when the law came into effect, but doctors especially, and hospitals, they're going to get hit hardest under this law. They're really going to get hit in three different ways. One, they're going to get hit as an employer providing benefits to their employees from a cost standpoint.
That's what this lady said.
They're going to get hit from what they're scared most of is payment reform. Right now, most insurance is paid, fee for service. You do a test, we're going to give you X amount of dollars. You do another test, we're giving you X amount of dollars. And it's starting here in Tennessee. It's starting with the Tennessee payment provision, where they're starting at the Medicaid level, TennCare, where they're reimbursing based on an episode of care. So, for example, if you have your primary care doctor refers you to a urologist, because you have an issue, then there's going to be a radiologist and some of these other doctors. Well, the insurance company or Medicare is just going to pay them, okay, for that procedure, we're going to pay you $4,000.
And they have to fight over who gets how much of what.
That's correct, and that's what happens. So if it actually only costs them $1,000 to treat that member, then they're going to make more money. But if it costs them $6,000 to treat that money, they're going to lose money.
Well, guess what, folks? People can't lose money in their businesses like that routinely. So what they do is they quit.
So the theory is that you're putting a market pressure on providers to increase the quality of outcomes.
The government mandated this, Franklin. That is not market pressure.
Isn't that the theory, Andy?
Well, I wouldn't know if I necessarily call it market pressure, but what they're basically doing.
Wait a minute. What is market pressure?
Where in your definition
does the government mandate
come into market pressure?
It's a financial incentive to get a better outcome
I
at a
hate
lower
to break
cost.
this to you. The way supply and demand works, market pressure comes from millions of individual consumers deciding they like or don't like something. The government coming in with the long arm of the law and saying, by God, you're going to do this, is not market pressure.
What happens there is, it's really, in my opinion, it's unfair to the doctors, because I was talking to a urologist friend of mine, and if he's operating on two people, one guy runs 10 miles a day, doesn't smoke, eats right, and he operates on a guy that's 300 pounds overweight, that smokes, that obviously doesn't exercise. The deck stacked against him already, because the guy that's already running and taking care of himself is going to have a higher rate, chance of recovering quicker or being compliant with his instructions, whereas the other guy's already got 5 steps back, is he's overweight, he smokes, he's obviously not compliant in his own life, so is he going to follow my instructions? But he's going to get paid based on outcomes, and the deck's already stacked against him on the guy that's overweight. So
the doctors will have an incentive not to treat the sickest among us.
Well,
welcome to the death panel.
It's not
folks.
an option, though.
It will be the independent
network. It's not
independent payment advisory board is the next step along this line, Franklin. And guess what? Now you've got Mark Halperin, who is a Time magazine editor, actually liberal Time magazine editor, saying yes, there will be rationing and there are death panels.
Well, they've never said that there's no rationing. They said there's no death
Actually,
penalty.
when they sold this and crammed it down our throats, they most certainly did say there would be no rationing.
There's always
they specifically
been rationing,
said
John.
there would be no rationing.
Wait a minute.
Your guy said there'd be
rationing.
no rationing in this.
Wait a minute. How many people in this room believe anything's coming out of Washington?
Well, the newest poll says no one believes him. The president's dependability and honesty has dropped well below 50%.
Well, in the third way that providers are going to get hit hard is inside the law, there's a 90-day payment provision for people who buy on healthcare.gov or on the marketplace. They have 90 days to pay their premium before they're canceled. Today, all of us have 30 days. You have a 30-day grace period. Premiums due on the 1st, late by the 30th, you're canceled. But inside the law, people on the marketplace have 90 days to pay the premium. So doctors are obviously scared about, treating a person at the 60th day, 70th day, and then they don't pay their premiums, and the insurance company pulls that money back, and then they got to go back after that person to get the money.
Which you won't get.
Which you're not going to get. So I researched the law because I had a doctor client of mine ask me about it, and sure enough, it's in there, and the administration said they researched, they studied, and they just thought that struck the right balance, and they understand.
So all the community organizers in the White House, with their vast experience,
care.
thought this was a good business model.
But those are the three areas why physicians are going to get hit hardest, and hospitals are lumped into that as well. But I can't help believe that they put the 90-day provision is because if you're on the marketplace, you're going to get a subsidy, and the IRS is going to be sending your insurance company an X amount of dollars per month. And I worry about the administration of that. So if my gross premium is $1,000 a month and I'm getting $700 in credit, the IRS is going to send that $700 each month to my carrier. And I can't help but how that's going to flow if a Social Security number is wrong, date of birth is wrong, or something. How's it going to get applied to just little old me here in Cleveland, Tennessee? And if it doesn't, who do we call? So those are some of my concerns. And I thought maybe that's probably why they did the 90-day.
You've got some significant administrative concerns.
Yes.
Right?
Sure. So and who do we call? I mean,
well, let me add something to that. Starting in mid-December, the government and each participating insurance company are supposed to perform a monthly reconciliation of their numbers as to who's enrolled. This is a lot of what you're talking about, to make sure that each has the same list of customers, the benefits chosen by the consumers, and the government subsidies that they qualify for. Guess what? That feature of the online system has not been built. Now think about that, folks. That's the payment system, and it's going to kick in less than a month. You're in about 2.5 weeks, and they haven't even built it yet. This isn't part of the website that's failing. This is part of the website hasn't even been constructed.
You think we'll get this insurance? March,
you think we'll get this insurance free?
No,
it's January.
Well, the government wants to, because if you can nationalize an industry, you just make people.
They're not worried about getting paid, then, are they?
By the way, factcheck.org, which is certainly not a conservative website, has now gone on to the healthcare.gov's estimates. And guess what healthcare.gov is not doing? They're not asking your age. They're not asking you whether you're smoked when they give you these estimates. So what factcheck.org found by using a site called valuepenguin.com, which, by the way, one of the constructors of Obamacare for the White House actually recommends going on valuepenguin.com to get these estimates. They found that on the healthcare site, this family, they put in an imaginary family, their range was $704 a month to $982 a month. When they went on Value Penguin, they found 69% higher. They ranged from $1,200 to $1,600 a month. So they're lying to you folks coming and going.
Andy, are you getting numbers from insurance companies?
Are you talking about premium rates?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I already have all the gross premium rates.
Sure. So is this something that you're concerned about being able to tell your customers accurately?
Not from a cost standpoint. No.
All right, let's clear this up, because
subsidy is another matter. But no, I have the gross premium
Franklin
rates.
is playing on the public, just like the liberals do. You all are not understanding the full impact of this. Let me ask you something. Are you part of the exchange?
No, currently
so
I have a
all
group
of the
plan.
prices you're getting and all of the customers you're dealing with are coming to you outside of the exchange.
Oh, no. You mean personally? No, I have the rates. I have Blue Cross and Cigna.
But that's my point. You have the company's rates. What I just said, Franklin, is all of the estimates that the government's website, healthcare.gov, is giving people are actually 60 and 80% low. Because, folks, this is about the politics of convincing you.
And that's my question I'm asking, Andy, which is, are you finding the reality to be somehow dramatically misleading from the website? That's the question.
I've been, of course, I've tried to get on healthcare.gov.
Have you been able to get on?
A million times. But I did, they changed the site. Originally, you weren't allowed to see prices on the front side. You had to go through everything to get prices, and I never got there. But then they changed it so you can get prices on the front side. Because when I originally did it, it gave me estimates on prices, but it gave me prices, but I did have to put dates of birth. And this is originally when it came out in October. And I was like, well, how are they giving me rates? I haven't given them a date of birth.
That's what I'm talking about.
But they've changed it to where on the front end you can put your data in, I believe, because I did it on myself. Because then what I did is, okay, what's the rate for me for plan B04? And then that popped up, and then I went to my rate sheet, and it matched. So when I did it here most recently, a couple weeks ago, it matched. But I can understand what you're saying is if the system's not working.
Is November the 25th is when they did this. They are, and by the way, folks, when I talk about the politics of this is according to factcheck.org. At no point during the process of browsing for plans or prices are visitors informed that they may pay more, in some cases much more, for insurance than the estimated prices shown on the site. But the site repeatedly tells visitors that the actual prices may be lower. Every page during the process of surfing for plans and prices carries a blue box that says your price may be lower. They don't tell you, by the way, it may be a hell of a lot higher.
What I've experienced is if you're on a individual plan today through Blue Cross, TRH, whatever, your rates are going to go up. Almost everyone I've looked at. But if you're on a small group plan, your rates are probably going to go down. I've seen of the people that I have insured under a small group, under 50, 10, 15, 16-man group, most of them, not all of them, I think I've looked at probably 25, and 20 of them are going to save money. 5 of them aren't.
Where do the bulk of American citizens get their insurance?
Through the government.
Or so what he just said is the smaller group of Americans that are in small plans, you may do okay. You may be even. You might even be a little lower. But most of you people that work for Peyton's, you people that work for Arch, you people that work for Amazon, you're going to see higher rates.
That's not what he said.
Yes, it is.
That's not what he said.
And on top of that,
CBS let him talk. Is that what you said?
No, I mean, like large groups. I mean, the problem with the law is segregated. The law affects under 50 more than it does over 50. Now, large groups, if you're Peyton's, you're, Hobby Lobby, they're thousands of employees, they're self-funded, their rates are based on their claims.
What's going to happen to their coverage next year when the mandate kicks in?
I would say under 50 groups are probably going to drop their group health insurance. I don't see large employers doing it because of the penalty.
CBS News says that large groups are. New report, CBS News, millions more employer-based health care plans will be canceled in the coming months.
Yeah, like I got a customer right now. It's got 233 employees. They got about 130 enrolled. Their cost right now is about $300,000. So if we look at if they say, okay, and they don't like provide insurance, it's high, their claims are terrible, they're not individual experience rated, they're pool rated, so that's a little bit different. But if we look at their penalty would be 230 minus 30, so 200 times 2,000 was at $400,000. So if they don't offer insurance, their cost is going to go up $100,000 from 300 to 400.
But does their plan meet the current standard?
It does, but it's not very good. But it's
All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You need money overnight? Check into cash. Your time is tight. .com. Bank account's too low? Check into cash. So where do you go? .com. Do it online in a record time. It's the easy way to get money next day. Do a quick click from home at checkintocash.com. Just stay in the house, check into cash, and grab your mouse.com. Get your money online, check into cash, right on time.com. You can be sure it's secure from our bank straight to yours. Do a quick click from home at checkintocash.com. No time to get away, check into cash. You've got to stay home.com. Hey, that's okay, check into cash. You can do it alone.com. Any old time, do it online. Just stay in the house and grab your mouse. Do a quick click from home. Get your money overnight at the right website. Do a quick click from home. Go to checkintocash.com.
Hi, this is Chris at Buy Here, Pay Here USA, and there are many reasons to buy your next vehicle from us, including our low down payments and customer confidence plan on all certified vehicles. The plan includes our 48-hour vehicle return policy, 52-point inspection, and free oil changes with auto pay for the life of your loan. Why would you buy your vehicle anywhere else? Check out our great selection at Buy Here, Pay Here USA in Cleveland or Dayton. Call us at 1-877-794-A-CAR or visit us online at buyherepayhereusa.com for more details.
Tired of standing Standing in line to cash your paycheck? Go to usmoneycard.com. Company doesn't provide direct deposit? Visit usmoneycard.com. The smart and safe alternative to carrying cash. We'll provide direct deposit for your prepaid debit card, or you can deposit cash anytime. Your US Money Card is reloadable and can be used wherever MasterCard is accepted. You never have to worry about overdraft fees. Spend what you deposit. So log on, load up, and love your US Money Card, the safe and smart way to spend. Visit usmoneycard.com for complete details.
The Bald-Headed Bistro has a brand new menu offering more value for your dollar. The Bald-Headed Bistro, Western fine dining in the heart of the South. The best bar and happy hour in town. The Bald-Headed Bistro in the Village Green, Cleveland.
Hi, this is Glenn from U.S. Money Shops. If you need up to $2,500 in quick cash and have a clear title on your vehicle, visit your nearest U.S. Money Shops and get a title loan. Ask about our low rate, and chances are you'll be shocked at how competitive we are. So come on down to U.S. Money Shops, located in Chattanooga on Brainerd Road, or in Cleveland across from Kyle Dodge.
Buy or sell or buy today. The better way at U.S. Money Shops.
U.S. Money Shops. Buy, sell, pawn, we do it all.
Tea cookies, thumbprint cookies, chocolate burgers.
All of this and more is available at the Village Bake Shop, open from 6 to 6 Monday through Friday and 6 to 5 on Saturday. The Village Bake Shop's located at the Village Green Town Center and has been satisfying Cleveland's sweet tooth since 1961. Give them a call at 476-5179 or come and see them at the Village Green Town Center.
Brownies, cupcakes, wedding and birthday cakes, muffins, pies, Danish.
Sealy Rollback. Come to Mermaid Mattress for a limited time and enjoy extra savings on Sealy Posturepedic and Optimum by Sealy. Sealy has rolled back Optimum prices by $200 per set, Sealy Posturepedic sets by $300. Buy now and get 36 months same as cash for any Sealy purchase. Only at Mermaid Mattress. Mermaid Mattress, with several locations to serve you. Check them out at www.mermaid.com or call them at 472-2486.
Mermaid Mattress Factory and Showroom.
Financial Recovery, licensed and bonded collection agency, located right here in Cleveland, Tennessee. Give them a call at 423-473-7670. Small town service with big city results. A full service medical, commercial, retail, and individual collection service. Celebrating 10 years in business. Call Financial Recovery at 423-473-7670 to help you with your accounts receivable and past due invoices. Financial Recovery, 423-473-7670.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, we're back in the studio live with Andy Fickelstaller. He's our insurance professional this morning, and with Jacobson Associates. If anybody wants to give him a call, Jacobson Associates is how to reach him. We've got John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. One of the things I wanted to bring up this morning, Obamacare signed up his first dog. Did you hear about that one, Franklin?
Hadn't heard about that one.
This guy that had been signing up for the health care out in Colorado used his dog's name when he as Baxter. He gave Baxter's name as one of his security questions. Anyway, next thing you know, Baxter was the person who got signed up for Obamacare.
So this guy didn't try to do this. The website did it for him.
That's right. It was he was using. It was asking him for some codes.
And security questions. You had to answer three security questions.
Yeah, one of them was the name of his pet, and he said Baxter, and somehow Baxter became the enrollee here, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that the healthcare.gov website's not working, and it's obviously piling on. And
well, by the way,
it's
folks,
a problem.
All this information that you're going to be putting onto this, we now have the leader of the head communications lead of Enroll America's Texas state communications lead has now resigned because he was conspiring with a political advocacy group to share the data that they collected off the Obamacare applications with this Democrat liberal advocacy group.
And seriously, Franklin, I'm going to open this question up. security is going to be a huge thing.
This isn't even security. These are the people that are supposed to be safeguarding this, actually going to a political group and saying, hey, I'll give you a list of names and numbers for you to contact so they'll come vote for us.
Yeah. But, just the security of the information that's going to be put into this system and let's say it's working. But once you get your Social Security numbers in there, now everybody keeps asking me for my Social Security number. I never give them my Social Security number anymore. I'll give them the last 4 digits of my Social Security number and my date of birth, and that's all they get. Now, then, the government is the only one who, I think, still makes you give them full Social Security information.
Well, they've already got it.
Well,
so,
one of the state websites has already been hacked.
Why can't you give the last 4 numbers and your date of birth?
The point is, why can't the government have stayed out of this and not forced all of Americans to turn their private information
John,
in?
Is because huge numbers of people had no access to health care.
Well, Franklin, you better start talking to your Democratic buddies in the House and the Senate because they are getting ready to bail on this president and this program in droves.
I mean, John doesn't like to talk about that fact. There
I'll
are all
talk
these
about lots
people
of things,
out there
Franklin.
who
we talked about portability. The Republicans wanted to do portability as a single bill.
How
we wanted
does that
to allow
cover people who had no insurance, John?
Well, Franklin, a lot of the people that have no insurance lost it when they lost their job. So portability allows them to carry their insurance from one job to the next.
How would they pay for that when they didn't have the job, John?
Well, I guess they could get on food stamps like the millions of people this president has added.
Yes, and that $37 a week really goes a long way.
Franklin, here's the problem. I just gave you an example of an individual problem that could have been addressed with individual legislation, and you won't even talk about it. You're so blind in defending this incompetent president.
I'm not blind to it at all. Here's what I think, John. You want to curse everybody who tries to solve a problem.
I wasn't cursing anybody.
We know you are.
Franklin,
that's all you've done.
This was passed purely by Democrats. Republicans were shut out. We have ideas that we weren't even allowed to discuss.
The entire plan is largely Republican ideas.
Go ahead. If it's such a good Republican idea, why'd they have to lock us out of the rooms when they were writing it?
Hey, caller, I'm trying to get to you. Go ahead, caller.
Good morning, Steve.
It's hard to take a call around here.
I just got a question for Andy, if you don't care.
Go ahead.
A question for Andy.
Wait a minute.
So hold on.
We got to get him some headsets. Go ahead.
Let's say a person's got breast and cervical cancer. Is it going to be hard for them to get on insurance?
No, it's the law. Everything's guaranteed issue, no pre-existing conditions. So that's one of the cornerstones of the law is effective January 1st. Doesn't matter what your health conditions are. You get the policy of your choice, and you pay the appropriate premium.
That's probably the biggest selling point of Obamacare is that.
Well, no doubt. It covers those people that are uninsurable before. There's no health questions. It's basically there's in our area. If you're in this listenings area, we have probably 40, 50 different plan designs from Blue Cross. From different cost points. And deductible and out-of-pocket points, and basically.
I do know though that if a person's got that and that if they're on TennCare Medicaid, that they're not eligible for Medicare. I'm reading right in front of me. It says if you got this, then you're not eligible for Medicare, and it's going to mess up on their TennCare also.
Yeah, what happens is what happens is you're not for the subsidy, the tax credit or subsidy. It's officially called the premium assistance. If you're earning between 100 and 400% of federal poverty level, you're eligible for a tax credit to buy insurance.
Okay.
But if you're below 100% of federal poverty level, you don't qualify for any tax subsidy, and you're going to qualify for TennCare in the state of Tennessee, Peach Care, and Georgia.
But Cover TN will go away, will it not, Andy?
Because
it doesn't meet the minimum standard.
Well, the Cover TN is in question because the president said you can keep your plan if you like it. I don't know if Cover TN is going to last another year or not.
So all of the children that are on Cover TN that have benefited from that program are going to lose that coverage because of Obamacare.
I would imagine that they would extend that one more year since the president said you can keep your plan. But after
they'll
that,
extend it all past the 2014 election.
That's probably what it is.
But they'll be going on to some
Franklin,
other
they just extended one of the deadlines 1 month from October 15th to November 15th. 15th. No decent human being can say that is nothing more than a political ploy to get the deadline beyond the 2014 elections. This is the most cynical, dishonest administration in the history of the country.
I agree, but go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, so what you'll do, sir, is it'll be based on, if you're married, it'll be based on your income and your wife's income. The subsidy will, and I can talk to you off air if you want to call the office. But it just depends on where you're at from a federal poverty level standpoint, what your credit is. But let's just say you're below 100% of federal poverty level. You may not qualify for a tax credit. You can still go out and buy a policy and pay the whole premium, but those people will be less likely to afford it because they're not getting any type of tax credit.
The tax credit and the subsidy, will that be magic money, or will that be money that we don't have right now that will have to come from taxpayers?
Well, it's coming from additional taxes levied on different
so in other words,
businesses
some of the services that he needs this insurance to cover will now cost more because they've raised taxes on it, like your knee joint surgery and any kind of implant.
Well, yeah, because they put a 2.5% tax on medical devices.
Now, do only rich people go to tanning beds that got a tax increase?
I don't know. I've never been in a tanning bed.
So a lot of people at the poverty level will pay an increase through the tanning bed tax.
You've got a nice, healthy glow anyway.
Let's go.
Said the sun's free. Why pay for it?
Let's take another call from the Red-Headed Wildcat. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. If the next president we elect, can they knock this insurance down? I mean, put it out of business?
Well, you got to have Senate and House approval, and he got to vote on it.
I believe that's what's going to happen.
Well, you'll have to elect a Republican-controlled Senate to knock it down. Because right now the House has knocked it down over and over again, and Harry Reid, the Democrat leader in the Senate, will not even allow it to be discussed or voted on the Senate floor.
Well, we don't want this insurance, and everybody I've talked to said they'd pay the penalty. They wouldn't take it.
Now, wait a minute. I can't believe you're flipping on this now, Red.
After I checked into it, I'm flipping on it.
What did you find out?
Because nobody's going to tell me where I can go to the doctor, when I can go, and who I have to go to.
And which hospital you got to go to.
Right. I'm not having that.
Andy, locally here, what's been the reality in terms of what's happened to the networks, the doctors that are available, and so forth?
I mean, here locally, Blue Cross, you have the same access as commercial customers. Network S, in my opinion.
But here's the problem, Andy. Let me interrupt for a second. What happens when all these young people, like in the class you talked about at Lee, when they don't sign up and that premium money's not coming in and there's not enough money to cover all the sick people that have signed up? What happens to the premium? Don't they call that the death spiral?
Well, yeah, I mean,
and when that happens, what do they have to start doing? Finding somewhere to cut costs.
Rates are going to go up. I mean, you got to have a healthy.
Let's take another call.
The penalties are also going to go up in subsequent years.
In other words, the long arm of the law will increasingly come down on your head harder and harder.
Hey, let's take a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, my name is Roy Williams, and I'm voted in this county for 50 years, locally, nationally, and state.
Congratulations.
And I'd like to direct my comments to Mr. Stanberry, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I took my physical this year, and they gave me a thing to sign up to answer a questionnaire. And I asked the young lady, what is that? I've never done that before. She says, I don't know. It's just something the government wanted us to do. And I said, that's okay. I'll talk to Doc about it. When he come in, it was laying on top of my papers, and he just threw it to the side on the counter. And I go, I know what that is, Doc. And he said, what? And I said, that's something the government is going to decide whether they let me live or die. And he said, he looked up at me and he goes, you're exactly right. That's one. And here's one I want to direct to Mr. Stansbury. Mr. Stansbury, there is something that in that 50 years I've been voting that I came aware of, and that is it's absolutely impossible for a Democrat to discuss anything to a logical conclusion. Notice that what they will do when confronted with fact, they will either get mad, interrupt, talk over you, change the subject, blame someone else, or leave the room or the conversation. And it is at the end of this discussion that you have each week, and I thank you, that you find that both of you have the same problem. From your side, they can't discuss anything to a logical conclusion. And from their side, They can't discuss anything to a logical conclusion. Same problem. How hard would it be to prove that 2 and 2 is 5 or isn't 5?
You'll never be able to prove what's.
Or how hard would it be to be that to keep your own? If you were told you could keep your own insurance, your own doctor, and still save $2,500 a year, not to be true. Both are a lie.
Well, it's hard to be led by a liar, and it's hard to understand the truth of a liar when he's not telling the truth. But for some reason, we just can't get everybody to get that, can we?
No, well, quite obviously. I've not. And if you ever run across one that you do, you call me, and I'll be happy to buy you a cup of coffee anywhere in this town. But within 50 years, Mr. Stansbury, I've not bought that first cup of coffee. I wished I could.
Well, I will tell you, and I've said this before, Republicans, and this is how we get labeled as being harsh and mean-spirited, we tend to try to be logical about an argument. The Democrats tend to work off of emotion. Like right now, the White House, instead of dealing with all of the actual facts of the failures of this program, the failures of the website, they have fallen back to individual success stories. So now, the same people that said 5 million people losing their health care was just a blip and don't worry about that are now pulling up 1 and 2 and 3 individuals goes, look, this guy got lower rates. So 5 million people losing their health insurance, that's not something we need to worry about. But Fred out in California that did okay on it, that's a proof of the entire success of the program.
You got it.
And so, John, when you
All right,
come
caller,
in here
thanks
the
for
last
calling.
several weeks and read these examples you've had of people you thought were being hurt by it,
But
how is
Franklin,
that
here's
different?
the problem. They're representative of millions. They are, Franklin. The White House has admitted that at least 5 to 14 million people will lose their insurance, and that's just this year before the big mandate hits next year.
No, see, John, because you do apples and oranges. When you say somebody's losing their insurance, you mean they're coming off their current policy.
Which they
You're
like.
leaving out the
Which they
going
like.
on to another policy.
Franklin,
part.
once again, we're back to the same thing. You think it's okay for the big arm of government to force an individual to do what government wants them to do. The guy who has already decided, like myself, I'm not having any more children, Franklin. A common sense person wouldn't pay for maternity coverage when they weren't going to have any more children.
Okay, we all know the insurance is going to cost more. Obama won't admit it. He wish he would. Then we just move on. Let's take a call. Go ahead,
Well,
call.
who's it going to cost more?
It's going to cost you and me.
It's not costing me anymore.
Well, when the
You
independent
just wait.
going down.
Wait a minute. We got a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Dale,
Yo.
I got something to ask John and see if he can answer this without screaming at Chancey there a minute.
All right.
John, do you honestly think that the Republican Party has not has put people out in the public to try to throw a stick in the spokes of this Obama coverage?
No, it's just I can
No,
answer that for him. Hey, we just got a stupid person running the show and doesn't know what they're doing.
Look, I will.
That's totally unfair because
Well, it's not unfair.
Well, let me give you. I will give you an example that I think proves the point perfectly. 2 of the cases that I brought up last week, we didn't choose them. The president did. They were his examples. He brought them up as a success story, and once they got into the system, it wasn't a success story. It was a failure. So we didn't create those people. The president actually found those people.
Well,
my point is, do you and Doe being a bent to the Republican side of this thing?
Hey, I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
So come on,
No, I'm in the middle.
I'm laughing at that too. So.
He's not in the middle.
Kumbaya.
Look, I understand what you're asking, and no, I don't think that we've gone out. And, have we gone out and tried to prove the original points we made? We said 3 years back, 4 years back, we said back in the 90s when Hillary tried to do this, all of the things that are happening, we said would happen. So yes, we do feel like we were right.
except that this plan is not what Hillary Clinton tried to do.
We said the problem is when you move away from a market-driven economy, it always collapses because the government can't run an economy. It's happened over the centuries in all kinds of countries. The freer the country, the more prosperous everybody is.
Well, don't you think, John, for just a minute, that the Republican Party should step back and look at this thing and give maybe 6 months to see if this thing's going to work?
Let me get. Can I answer this for John? And I'm going to try to do it without a whole lot of yelling. If Mr. Obama and his group of people up there would just tell the truth, I think the Republicans would be fine. What's going on now? They're trying to lie about this and say it's not going to cost anybody any more money. In the long run, there's going to be savings. That is untrue. They know it's going to cost more. If they'd just admit to that, then we could work together and try to fix the problem the way it is. But right now, they're lying about it. It's going to cost more in the long run. When it's all over with, you're not going to get the benefits that you
CBO has already adjusted their numbers.
Why don't the Republican Party come forward and say, here's our plan for improvements to Obamacare?
All right, they did.
We have, Franklin.
Yes, wait a minute.
Well, 47 votes to repeal is not an improvement.
Why couldn't you buy insurance across the lines?
How does that get uninsured people covered?
You're going to get a better market. You're going to get a better.
How does that get
lowers the cost? It lowers the cost of health care.
How does that? Hold on a minute.
We might put all these poor people that are heroin addicts, that are sorry, that are alcoholic, that are drawn off the system. We might put them in another pool, and then we'll pay them some money. But at least we'll know where the money is.
Well, I think you've stumbled on the exact problem here. You actually believe and have deluded yourself into believing that the vast majority of uninsured Americans are criminals and heroin addicts.
There's a whole
lot
of
opposed to good, hardworking people who don't have insurance because they can't afford it.
But Franklin, to be honest, the reason you can make that statement now that the majority of them are good, hardworking people is because the majority now have been kicked off of their plans they had by Obamacare. But let me say one thing to the caller. I will say this. Here's what's really frustrating about this. Republicans have passed things in the House, but guess what? The Democrat Senate has not allowed any of them to pass the Senate. We are not in control of the White House, which is implementing this. We are not in control of Health and Human Services, which is running it. We are not in control of the IRS, which will enforce it. So when you say we're dumbing it up, we're not in charge of anything. We can fuss, but we're not in charge.
We can't even have a filibuster
anymore. If it's failing because this president and the Democratic Party put a plan in place that's not working.
Just absolutely lying.
Let's talk about this for
a minute. Let's take a call real quick. Let's take a call. Go ahead, caller, if you're there.
Morning, gentlemen.
All right, we just got a question. Ask a question. We're moving on.
Franklin's always going on and on about health care. I want to know where you find that health care is not a commodity, that health care is a right, a constitutional right. Show me where that is. I want to see where health care is a constitutional right. It is not a right. Health care is a commodity.
I don't know that anybody's ever said it's a constitutional right.
Well, they say it all the time. Anytime you're against Obamacare, they say this is our right.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Here's what I would ask you. John's always talking about, let the market take care of these things.
Sure.
Well, there are parts of Obamacare that are clearly not part of a free market. For example, saying that your insurance company can't deny you because you got a pre-existing condition, or saying that they can't kick you off because you've gotten sick and developed some problem.
See, I think I think there could be some work there in those areas. I think that could happen.
But that's not free market.
No.
We're saying the free market's not working.
Franklin, once again, what you're doing is scare tactic. Listen to me real close. When I say the free market, I want the majority as much as possible to function in the free market.
So what
I'm
we're
not
really
saying
arguing
that it's
about
a complete
is degrees then.
No, Franklin. They took over 1/6 of the economy. This wasn't a degree. It's a totalitarian regime forcing American citizens for the first. Franklin, has the government ever forced a citizen to buy something, whether they wanted to or not, in the history of the country? The federal government, have they ever ordered people to buy a product?
In a sense, yes.
No, Franklin, they had to go to the Supreme
Let's take
Court.
a call. Let's take a call. Go ahead, caller.
I got one more question for anybody there, and I'm going to hang up just to the question. The question
All right.
is, a lot of people in where I live at here in Cleveland are on Medicare. Are we going to lose our insurance, or are we going to be safe with it?
Medicare.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah,
I'll
I
let
mean,
you answer.
this law does not directly affect Medicare. I mean, indirectly, it's going to affect everybody, including Medicare people. There's money when they talk about money being pulled out of Medicare. Basically, it's coming from the doctors, the payments that they're reimbursing.
But you
doctors.
don't think that won't affect patient care?
Well, no, it will.
And
That's
what
why
was
I
it?
said,
$700 billion dollars.
That's going to come from. So, what the law itself, obviously,
What
was
Obama
not,
and the law did.
But what's going to happen is you're going to see, that's a huge voting block. What you're going to see if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, you're going to see your copays go up. You're going to see your out-of-pockets go up. You're going to see your premiums go up.
And you're going to see the number of doctors that see you go down.
That's correct. But
And
they're
by the
not
way,
going to do
most-
away with Medicare. It's just going to, what happens
Severely affect it.
So,
So I mean, think about that. The comforting thought is it's not going to go away. Your copays are going to go up. Your costs are going to go up. The number of doctors you can see are going to go down. But other than that, it's not going to affect Medicare.
There's a discussion about some needs testing involving some Medicare.
Which means some of you are on Medicare are going to get kicked off. That's the fancy way of saying it. Needs
That's not
testing.
what we're talking about. We're talking about whether your premium level, not whether you stay on it or not.
Yeah, I mean, Medicare is it's a great deal. I mean, if you're on there's two ways to do it: an old school plan with a Medicare supplement, or a new school, the Medicare Advantage. I mean, there's plans out there with Medicare Advantage that are zero premium.
By the way,
and to answer your question a minute ago, John, if you get down to the bottom of it, Medicare is something that we force people to buy. You have premiums that are taken out of your Social Security.
Folks, let me say
to
something.
Pay for Medicare.
Here's the biggest
you
problem.
You have to do it. You can't avoid doing
well,
it.
Again, you could choose not to.
Here's the biggest problem that people are not talking about. The real scary impact of Obamacare is not going to be seen for years down the road. And by then it's going to be too late to fix it. Because, for example, Medicare patients, the vast majority of them benefit greatly from all the new drugs that are developed to treat diabetes, to treat heart disease. Guess what,
cancer.
folks? The drug pipeline, when you start affecting the company's ability to pay for the development of these drugs, when you hurt their profitability, they don't develop the drugs. The drug pipeline has decreased significantly. There are huge decreases in the number of new drugs coming down the pipeline. Now, you won't see that for 5 years or 10 years, and by then it's going to be too late. This is going to hurt the quality of health care of the highest quality health care country in the world.
Let's talk about the filibuster. I know we're running late. Can you guys stay a few extra minutes this morning?
Yeah, I got 10 minutes.
All right. Anyway, the filibuster program, I know that there was a lot of hoo-la-la going on in Washington. And now Harry Reid has pushed this through. What's it called? The
nuclear option.
The nuclear option. Now, I know one of the things Mr. Obama was trying to do, he was trying very, very hard to get a union lawyer, Richard Griffin, into the next general counsel. And this was being protested. So now they've taken over the court system in Washington, D.C. No, that's what they've done.
That's not true.
No.
It's not even close to true.
Well, tell me what they did.
They're trying to stack the court.
No, they're not.
No,
That's
yes,
ridiculous.
they are. It's really obvious.
No.
You know what they're calling the Constitution right now? It's a speed bump. It's going to be a speed bump in this thing.
The president's job is to fill vacancies when they come up. That's his job.
Uh-huh.
We have 3 vacancies on the court.
How
because
long have the
people
vacancies
retire.
been? How long have they been there?
More than a year now.
Actually, Franklin, you want the real history of this? I'll give you the real history. Now, it's important, Franklin. Listen for just a second. These vacancies have been open for years. That is the most underutilized court in the country. And guess what it does? Guess what it does, Franklin? I'll read you the statistics. They've decreased.
It does not matter what you're saying here. It is absurd.
Listen, it's
beyond absurd.
No, it's not,
ignorant.
Franklin. Let me read you this. This is in 2000.
It's a vacancy.
Listen to
He's
me.
filling a vacancy
Listen
that's
for a
already
second,
there.
Franklin. Franklin, listen. In 2007, when or 2006, when the Democrats were in the minority, they sent a letter to the Judiciary Committee Chairman Arlen Specter. These are the senators: Leahy, Feinstein, Schumer, and Durbin. All Democrats. All are still in the Senate. All of them are there now. All of them voted to end the filibuster. They sent the letter, and they told him they thought the workload was too light, and they didn't want any new appointments to this court. So when Bush was president and they were in the minority, they said exactly what Republicans are saying now, that what we would like to do is fill some of these other court vacancies that have more people. So this is a manufactured crisis to stack the court.
And let me tell you exactly what the facts are.
Franklin, are you arguing with these Democrat senators?
No, I'm challenging your argument from it.
It's their argument. We said the same thing they said in 2006.
Here are the facts. And I challenge John to show me where they're wrong. I'm challenging you right now to show me one of them's wrong. There have been 180 filibusters of judicial appointments in the history of the United States of America.
How many years is that?
225.
Okay.
Wait, let me finish.
225.
183 in 225 years. 52% of them have been done in the last 5 years.
Who started the practice?
Who started it?
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to about 1904.
Actually, it doesn't. It really significantly.
No, it started during the Woodrow Wilson administration.
Only goes back to 2000, and the Democrats started doing it.
52% in the last 5 years. And let me take it to the next step. The day they passed this nuclear option, they brought one of these guys up for a vote, okay, to fill a vacancy on a court. Guess what the vote was? 92-0. There wasn't a single Republican who voted against the judge. The judge had been waiting 13 months just to get a vote. Nobody cared whether he was confirmed or not. Even the Republican Party thought he was okay. But because of this obscene, insane hatred for the president, they were going to deny this person a vote. That's what this is about.
Well, the first appellate court
92-0.
The first appellate court nomination that was filibustered was Miguel Estrada by the Democrats. He sat for 27 months and then he failed he finally withdrew his name. The Democrats did this first. This court, folks, that they're trying to pack the court. Right now it's evenly divided. 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. It has the lowest utilization rate of any of the courts in the country.
In 8 years,
they are trying to pack it.
In 8 years, when President Bush was president, there were 1/4 as many filibusters as there's been in 5 years with this president.
Well, frankly, let me
it's
read
a total abuse of the process.
Let me read you a quote. If you cannot get 60 votes for a nominee, maybe you should think about who you're sending to be confirmed.
That's the problem, John. You can get 60 votes for the nominee, just like the one I told you about got 92. They wouldn't let them vote.
How does that work?
Guess who said that, Franklin? That was Hillary Clinton's quote.
On a filibuster, what would be the purpose of a filibuster? If the minority party felt like they didn't have enough time to debate the cause?
No, according to James Madison, the point of the Senate working like this, having a filibuster, is that this is the pot that we simmer the hot-headed legislation that comes out of the House.
Here's the difference. I don't have an objection to a traditional filibuster where somebody comes into the chamber and holds the floor and forcefully makes their argument. And if that slows down the process, so be it. That's debate in this thing. But that's not what was happening here. We had developed a system over the last 50 years where one member, essentially, could put a hold on a nomination, and it would never come up for a vote.
Which is what the founders intended.
No, it wasn't what they intended.
It is absolutely what.
It was not what was intended. And by the way this filibuster was being done, this is something that only began happening during the Woodrow Wilson administration. This does not go back to the founding of the country.
Let me ask you something. What is the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals used for? Through our government.
It hears all the challenges to the administrative rules the president passes.
That's right.
No matter who the president is.
So really and truly, if the judges start taking this over,
it's a 4-4 court right now, folks. Think about that. It's evenly divided. 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats.
Right.
They want to add 3 Democrats to it. It's also.
And how did that come about?
Because the Democrats, when Bush wanted to add 3, said no. And those same Democrats are now demanding that they get to add 3.
I'm sorry, but those appointments who are on there, 2 of the 4 were Bush appointees.
You're missing my point, Franklin.
He got his appointments.
These 3 vacancies have been there for years. And when the Democrats were in the minority, they argued exactly what the Republicans are saying. Don't fill those seats. It's evenly divided. That's a fair court. Now, for some reason, they want to add 3 more Democrats to make it a 7 to 4.
And then they put things. They'll put people in place like Richard Griffin,
folks,
who should be in prison.
According to the administrative offices of the U.S. courts, in 2006, written decisions by judges in that court had declined by 17% since 97. Since 06, they've had another 27% decrease. That is a underutilized court, and they are packing the court pure and simple.
That's simple, John. You passed the legislation to cut the number of judges on it, if you think that's the truth.
By the way, if they
but
change
that's not
it,
what your party thinks.
Do you think this will help the partisan and bitterness and gridlock or hurt it?
I have no idea.
Well, President Obama did, because this is his quote. If they choose to change the rules and put an end to democratic debate, then the fighting, the bitterness, and the gridlock will only get worse. Sure. That was Barack Obama when he was in the minority.
That's right.
Now he says it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
That was at a time when this rule was being used dramatically
to block
less than
Bush
it is now.
appointments.
Dramatically lower rate.
Let me just say
right?
let me say one thing, something for you to think about. I think at the rate we're going, with what's going on in our country, the direction we're headed, that we're going to end up with an insurance company developed by the mafia and run by the unions. That's all I got to say. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM at noon today and every Wednesday morning from 7:30 to 8:30. Now, back to more music on Whoop FM.
You need money overnight? Check